Alright, this is a quick rundown on the MN Triton Highrider, two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, what do you want to call it. It's built like a four-wheel drive, exactly like the four-wheel drive version. It just doesn't have the front drive shafts or the transfer case or whatnot. So I found it really difficult to find some information on the internets on how to, well, what parts to buy for the front wheel bearing. I contacted a supplier. They said no, the rear-wheel drive has to use the same parts as the two-wheel drive. Evidently they were wrong. I went out on a limb and I bought the hub assembly for the four-wheel drive. And lo and behold, when you uninstall it, the two-wheel drive has like a dummy stub axle that sits, inside exactly where the front drive shaft would. So anyway, it's exactly the same process. The knuckle is the same part as for the four-wheel drive, and this thing is a bitch to get out. I've had to pound on it pretty hard. It's corroded, rusted as around here, so that made it pretty difficult to get out. Believe it or not, this bearing, they're the original factory quality control check marks, and the same marks were on the split pin, which I've pulled out. You can sort of see the paint there, the original marks on the split pin. So this car's got 230,000 Ks on it, and it looks to me like that's the original bearing. So 230 Ks out of a set of wheel bearings. It had no wobble in it at all. Normally you can get a transverse like wibble wobble top to bottom. None of that. All it would do is it would shake the steering wheel, and it started out shaking at about 110 k an hour, and then over time it just gradually got worse till it was 80 k's an hour. It would start to shake the front end. So hopefully this is the culprit, but given that it's probably a 230,000 k set of bearings, good chance that that's what the problem is. So putting that in should be fairly simple. I've given that a dust up with some some used 400 grit wet and dry, and just cleaned up the faces to make them all flat so there's no lips. This goes back in, and then this goes in from the backside, and then all of that bracketry and whatnot for the ABS sensor and the dust shield and stuff, and the caliper and the ABS sensor can go back in. So it's not terribly difficult as far as doing wheel bearings is concerned. You don't have to pull the bearing out, so there's no pressing the bearing in or out, so that's not a drama. But if this is corroded, you are going to have to pound on it. So there you go. That's doing front wheel bearings on a rear wheel drive Highrider MN Triton.